Hello. The title of this program is Assertiveness. We were going to call it a program that sort of deals with ways of slightly improving your chances of kind of getting what you want from other people, just a tiny bit, if that's all right with you. But we felt that it was A, not very catchy, and B, not very assertive. So, what is assertiveness? Well, it's a way of behaving that makes sure that you get the attention and respect that you deserve from other people. Something which, in this imperfect world, may not automatically happen.
I'd like to welcome Colin Withers from R&D, who's kindly come along to explain to us why our engineering colleagues feel that the launch should be postponed a further 3 months.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by saying that I appreciate how important an early launch is from a marketing point of view. But as you know, the technology we're using here is still very new. And although our early tests produced very good results, there have been a number of subsequent problems with the power switch. As I was saying, there have been a few minor problems with the power switch, which we think, in everyone's interest, should be fully resolved before...
Jill, listen, I think we should try and get hold of Barbara before she leaves for Chicago.
Before we go into production. The fault itself, I mean, it's relatively easy to put...
Yes, but Barbara hasn't seen the display materials yet.
To put,
I'll tell you what, I'll hand you over to Margaret.
Right.
Tricky.
The new PEX and APEX fares apply on all European routes, with the exception of Spain, Portugal and Greece, where the Saturday night requirement is superseded by the 14-day advance booking restriction, provided that the outward flight is paid in full before the end of March, or in the case of non-scheduled flights to Finland and Sweden, up until the end of April, in which case the fare is arrived at by deducting the PEX fare from the average of the high and mid-season rate. So it's really quite simple. Any problems?
No.
Got it.
Fine by me.
Marjorie.
Two perfect examples of submissive behavior. The fact is that a lot of us spend far too much of our time being submissive. Sorry, you okay? Yes, we allow people and circumstances to push us around. Now, why do we do this? Well, one reason is because we want to be liked, but we also need to be respected. And submissive behavior does not earn us respect. Anyway, let's have a look at the advantages of submissive behavior. Well, to start with, I suppose you could say that by being submissive, we avoid confrontation. Next. Well, that's about it, I'm afraid. The advantages of submissive behavior are the avoidance of confrontation, half a bar of chocolate, and a paperclip. Now, as for the disadvantages, well, your point of view is ignored, your rights are neglected, you spend half your time bottling up your resentment, you lose confidence, your hair suffers, you make less of a contribution, you become demotivated, you feel undervalued, you can never find a parking space, your pets start ignoring you, and so on, and so on, and so on. So, what's the alternative, I hear you cry?
What's the alternative?
Aggressive behavior?
Yeah!
That's the answer?
Yeah!
Get stuck in there, guns blazing?
Yeah!
You on for that, Colin?
Yeah!
I'm sorry, we forgot you were here.
I'm not.
What?
I'm not here. I left about an hour ago. I'm now at home digging the garden.
I don't quite follow.
Of course you don't follow. You don't listen, do you? Because I'm not important enough. But I'm going to become important to each and every one of you. Because I'm going to devote the rest of my life to persecuting each and every one of you in strange and unfathomable ways, beginning with nocturnal coffin deliveries.
Well, not much sign of submissiveness there. Let's see how Marjorie's getting on.
Any problems?
It's gobbledygook.
What is?
The fare structure.
But I thought we all understood it.
Well, Yes, I understand it. Of course I do. What about the customers? I mean, someone comes in here and wants to know how much for a weekend in Paris, and it takes 5 hours to understand the answer. Absolutely ridiculous.
The advantages of aggressive behavior are you don't get used as a doormat, and you briefly look as though you might get what you want. Very briefly. Because you'll get what you want only if you win the help and cooperation of others. That's the way the world works. Now, the disadvantages of aggressive... Where is the box of disadvantages? I mean, is it so much to ask to put something down and expect it to be there 30 seconds later? Look, if that box isn't here in 5 seconds, 1 or 2 people are going to be looking for alternative employment, and I mean it. 1, 2, 3. Now look. Aggressive behavior does not win the help and cooperation of others. People react to you aggressively or defensively by, say, withholding information. Or, even if they do what you demand, they do it in a way that brings more problems to you later. So, aggressive behavior actually achieves as little as submissive behavior, which leaves us with a middle course, assertiveness, which allows us to deal honestly, openly, and fairly with other people, which encourages them, in turn, to treat us in the same way, adult to adult, with respect, but without fear. Imagine a seesaw. But for those of you who can't do that, here is one. And the trick is to get level with the other person so that we're neither being submissive and allowing ourselves to be dictated to.
Oh, get on with it, can't you? We were all day.
Nor aggressive, treading on the other person in our rush to get what we want.
Colin,
What
I was thinking.
were you? Would you mind doing it somewhere else?
Okay.
As we know, aggressive behavior has its consequences. Are you all right?
I think I fractured my spine, but I do feel I made my point.
No, it's assertiveness that gives you the best chance of getting what you want, and it's all about balance, about level, even, fair transactions between consenting adults. Imagine if Colin had behaved like this in the first place.
This is what I thought, but you see...
May I ask you a question?
Well, what do you suggest then?
May I ask you a question?
Sorry?
I don't want to be rude, but it's clear that your minds are on something else at the moment. I don't know how important that something is.
Yes, sorry, Colin, I'm sorry about that. It's an internal problem.
Well, put bluntly, the timing of this launch is obviously crucial to all of us. I need 10 minutes to explain our situation, and as long as you need to tell me yours. And we can talk about it now, or we can reschedule. I'd be equally happy with either.
Point taken. Can you give me time to make one quick call?
Of course.
Adult to adult, assertive, without being aggressive. Marjorie.
Everyone happy?
Not really.
Yes?
I find it confusing.
I beg your pardon?
Could you explain it again?
Oh, dear, Marjorie. Everyone else seems quite happy with it.
Well, perhaps, but I don't understand it, and I need to.
You want me to run over the whole thing again?
Please.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Actually, I wasn't absolutely clear about...
I'm sorry?
I'd quite like to hear it again, if that's all right by you.
I'm a bit confused about the super PEX restrictions.
Could you explain it again?
Well, all right.
The first and most important component of assertiveness is honesty. Honestly. Because without honesty, it's being honest with ourselves and with other people, none of us can ever achieve balanced transactions. So the first rule of assertiveness is be honest. Bit obvious, isn't it? So what is it that stops us from being honest?
I thought that went really well.
The whole presentation.
Yes.
To be honest, I think think some parts could be better.
Yes, what stops us is fear. The fear of what might happen if we're honest. Now, the way to overcome this fear is to ask yourself, supposing I am honest with this person, what is the worst thing that can happen? And when you come up with the answer, halve it.
I think some parts could be better.
And then, halve it again.
Could be better.
It is an immutable law of the universe that outside of police states, honesty is never as dangerous as you think it's going to be. But it still worries us. If by nature we're a bit submissive, we think honesty will lead to confrontation and the ceiling falling. If by nature we're a bit dominant, we imagine honesty will lead to our losing control of the situation and the ceiling falling in. Well, it doesn't. Honesty breeds honesty. So honest criticism will work provided that it's done assertively.
I thought that went really well.
To be honest, I think some parts could be better.
What do you mean?
It is a good pitch, but now that we've used it a few times, I think I can see some places we could tighten it up a bit, give it more impact.
It's got plenty of impact.
I just wonder if we don't spend a bit too long blowing our own corporate trumpet and not enough on actually explaining what the machine does. I think that might give the presentation more impact.
It's got plenty of impact.
All I'm suggesting is shortening the opening by a few minutes and maybe changing the music to something a bit livelier.
Yes.
And the second video we show, I wonder if we could find something a bit more to the point.
What else?
Well, I'd have to go through the script.
I'm not sure I agree, but if you feel strongly about it, why don't you put something down on paper?
A rational discussion between two adults, and not Armageddon. Colin may be right, he may be wrong. Either way, he asserted himself by being honest. After all, honesty makes communication possible because then people can actually find out what they all really think. Simple. Or is it?
You don't like it?
Well, it's very well done, Simon, but it is not what I asked for.
I know, but I thought it might look more stylish if I gave it a sort of Art Deco look.
But all you graphics people ever think about is style, isn't it? Never function. Never is it useful, or does it do the job, or can anybody read it? Just style, style, style. You never seem to grow up. You still think you're in some comfortable, protected, self-indulgent womb of an eternal art school. You're like my little brother.
You were really honest.
Thanks. It wasn't easy.
Just reminded me, what was it that you wanted Simon to do?
To redesign the brochure.
Ah, yes. So how was all that stuff about the overprotected womb of the art school relevant?
Well, it was honest. It was how I felt.
Absolutely. But will it make it easier for you to get what you want?
No, quite a bit harder.
Quite a bit harder.
A lot harder.
Ah. Well, when I said be honest, I have to qualify that a little. Some emotions and facts are relevant. Some are not. Deep down, we're all emotional people, and we all carry around a lot of old emotional baggage. Prejudices, class resentments, childhood dislikes, unrequited loves, Oedipus complexes, old stuff. We all have that. But when we're trying to get something done, we have to learn to differentiate between what's relevant and what's irrelevant and stow the irrelevant baggage in the overhead compartment. And then we should be honest about the relevant facts and emotions, the ones which have a direct bearing on whatever we're discussing. Let's look at some examples.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Not at all. But the simple fact of the matter is that we can't afford to go ahead. I had a dentist like you once.
That's irrelevant. How about this, though?
Well, I have to admit, I'm upset you didn't tell us earlier, Mary. It's going to have a pretty demoralising effect on a lot of people.
That's relevant.
Listen, pal, I've been in this business for 17 years.
The same was true of the man who designed the Titanic. On the other hand...
Listen, pal, I understand what you're saying, but that was a C-23, and this is a C-47. Look, the flange is welded into place. I fixed 3 of them already this week.
Relevant.
You don't like it?
It's very well done, Simon, but it's not what I asked for.
Relevant.
I know, but I thought it might look more stylish if I gave it a sort of Art Deco look.
All you graphics people ever think about is style, isn't it? You never seem to grow up.
Irrelevant.
You still think you're in some protected, comfortable, self-indulgent art school.
Irrelevant.
You're like my little brother.
Irrelevant.
I mean, I can see what you're trying to achieve, but the most important thing that the people who are going to read this brochure want is technical information.
Relevant.
Although it looks good, the artwork actually gets in the way of the spec. I mean, look at page 3.
Relevant. And that's the single most important lesson about assertiveness that you're going to learn today. Be honest about what's relevant. That is the principle underlying everything in this program. Okay. So, now we can move on and look at the situations where you may need to be assertive. There's going to be you and one or more other people, and you'll all seem to want different things. Now, the point of being assertive, honest and fair, is that it helps others to be the same, and that gives you all the best chance of reaching a satisfactory solution. Of course, there may not be one. There sometimes isn't. But if there is one, then being assertive gives you the best chance of finding it. But, before you get into any kind of discussion, you have to make your mind up what in the situation is negotiable and what is not. What's up for grabs and what isn't. And when you've figured out clearly what's not negotiable, you must stick to it. You must stand your ground. Oh, Colin, Ron is looking for you.
With you in a sec, Ron. Yes. Yes. Yes, lunchtime, definitely. Bye.
Colin, total emergency. I need the first quarter figures for a meeting this afternoon. Mrs. Whiplash is after my blood.
This afternoon? I'm sorry, Ron. I've just promised Sarah a complete audit by lunchtime. I just won't be able to do both.
Yeah, but this is an emergency.
I'll have them for you as soon as I can, but I can't do them now.
Colin, look, if I don't give her those figures by 2 o'clock, I'm going to have to move to South America.
Ron.
Now, look, Sarah won't mind.
But I promise.
Just ring her and tell her that the computer's crashed and you'll be a few hours late. Please.
I can't.
Not can't, won't. You don't seem to understand. This really is an emergency.
It is for you.
Oh, don't be so bloody self-righteous about it.
Listen, Ron, I don't want to get into an argument about this.
But you're about to.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Yes, I am.
Yes. Now, the only question at issue is, can you give him the quarterly figures by 2 o'clock?
I can't.
Is that negotiable?
No, I simply don't have the time.
Fine. Then just keep saying so. Imagine that you're pressing the instant replay switch. Imagine that you're pressing the instant replay switch. Imagine that you're pressing the instant replay switch. Imagine that you're pressing the instant replay switch.
Come on.
No, really. Say it nicely, but just keep repeating. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm sorry, I can't do this, okay?
Yes, but after a bit I'd get uncomfortable.
Ah, well, that's because you think you're rejecting the person. You're not.
I'm not.
No, you're just refusing this particular request. That's what's so great about this instant replay technique, you see. If you keep on very politely repeating, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I can't do that, then it doesn't become personal.
But just saying exactly the same thing over and over again, that sounds a bit odd.
Oh, you're all right. Well, you can always say something to show you're sympathetic or that you'd help if you could, but then you repeat, then you repeat, then you repeat. Okay?
Colin, total emergency. I need the first quarter figures for a meeting this afternoon. Mrs. Whiplash is after my blood.
I'm sorry, I've just promised Sarah a complete audit by lunchtime, and I just can't give you the figures by 2. I would if I could, but I simply can't.
But this is an emergency.
I'll have them for you as soon as I can, but I can't give them to you by 2.
Colin, if I don't have those figures by 2 o'clock, I'm going to have to move to South America.
Ron.
Now, Sarah won't mind.
Sorry, Ron, I understand your problem, but I've already promised Sarah, and I just can't do them by 2. And I just can't do them by 2. And I just can't do them by 2. Can't do them by 2.
Listen.
Is there anything you can do to help?
What?
Can't do them by 2.
No, can't, won't. You don't seem to understand. This really is an emergency.
I'll have them for you as soon as I can, but I can't give them to you by 2.
Oh, don't be so bloody self-righteous about it.
But I could probably manage something by mid-afternoon. Say about 4 o'clock.
I've got to have them by 2 o'clock.
I simply can't have them by then.
4 o'clock? 4 o'clock.
That's the instant replay technique. You think out what you're not prepared to negotiate about, and then you just repeat it calmly and firmly and nicely again and again and again. In other words, you stick to your bottom line. Okay. So now you and the people you're dealing with know what is not negotiable, which means that everything else is. So, whether it's who's going to make the coffee or shall we buy General Motors, you now have to go ahead and negotiate. So next, you need to learn negotiating. And fortunately, there are several excellent video arts programs on that. All of them, emphasizing how important it is to negotiate as equals, because you all share a common interest in discovering a solution which is satisfactory to everyone. So all this assertiveness stuff underpins negotiation too. That's how important it is. In fact, there's only one problem left. What happens if you have to deal with someone who hasn't seen this program? Unlikely, I know, but it happens.
You haven't got the faintest bloody idea what you're talking about, pal. I've had it up to here with you people. Bunch of bleeding wimps, the lot of you.
That's irrelevant, isn't it?
No, it bloody well isn't. I don't have to do this job, you know.
I'm sorry that I spoke out of turn, but the bottom line is we have to get this machine back in production as quickly as possible. We have to get this machine back in production as quickly as possible. We have to get this machine back in production as quickly as possible.
Who says?
You've got a bloody nerve. What's your supervisor called?
Don't you get smart with me, pal.
His mother died this morning. Did she? Yeah. He ran her over when he was taking his pregnant wife to hospital and wrecked the car. Got breathalyzed. The wife had quadruplets. He fainted right on the family cat, broke its neck.
You're making this up.
Yeah. But pretend it's true.
Pretend it's true.
Pretend it's true.
Would you like a cup of tea?
What?
I thought you might like a cup of tea.
Oh. Yeah, that'd be great, thanks. It's been a bit of a tough morning. Ran my mother over earlier.
And that's the final tip. If someone, for no apparent reason, behaves aggressively or emotionally towards you, tell yourself that something unimaginably awful has just happened to them, and that you're the nearest upright object that they can find to take it out on. It may not be true, but if you behave as though it is, then there's a chance that you keep your own emotions under control, which always helps. So, that's assertiveness. To sum up, as far as emotions and facts are concerned, you need to be honest about what's relevant. Next, you need to work out what's not negotiable, your bottom line, and use the instant replay technique to make sure you stick to it. And finally, when you do get to what is negotiable, make it clear that you're negotiating as equals, because you share a common interest in reaching a solution that's satisfactory to you all. The bad news is that assertiveness cannot guarantee that you get what you want. Nothing can do that. The good news is that assertiveness gives you the best chance of getting what you want. But even if it doesn't work out this time, at least, A, you know you did explore all the options, and B, you've laid the ground for a good working relationship in the future. So, I'll be off now, if that's okay with you. I mean, get lost. I mean, goodbye and good luck. Goodbye and good luck. Goodbye and good luck.